Thanks for joining us for this final episode in our Chemical Leavening series. So, Kevin, we were talking about the early mid-18th century and earlier professional use of chemical leavening. We also talked about 19th century and even late 18th century chemical leavening showing up on the household scene. And we're trying to find this touch point, right?
Yeah. Where this arc occurs, this bridge between professional use and domestic use.
Right.
And I'm not sure we're going to be able to pinpoint a specific date, a specific point in time. But I feel like we're getting close.
In this 1789 doctor's article, what did he say specifically where he's asking about this reference? He said that it's been used quite a while. He didn't reference it as a brand new occurrence.
Right.
It wasn't just like 1789, poof, this shoots out of nowhere. What does he say?
Women have so great a duration of time mingled with their cakes. And this is Mitchell who's saying this, that it's been in use for quite a while.
Okay.
And the 1789 reference that I mentioned earlier, he also had talked about how this is nothing new. This has been occurring for a while.
So we can push, and that's an interesting topic right there. The idea that recipes in recipe books do not spring up. It's not like the author, the year they were writing the book, said, hey, I'm going to invent this brand new dish. More than likely, the vast majority of those things are, hey, Betty's been making this for 40 years. Let's go ahead and put it in a recipe book this time.
Right. Amelia Simmons' cookbook was actually a collection of recipes that she had gathered that had been in use for a while.
Right. So we know it goes back farther. We just don't know how far back.
Right. Now, there's one other bit of evidence that I find very interesting. And I want to step back a minute. I've been in conversation with an author on cookery from the Hudson Valley area. Her name is Peter Rose. She's written several books, and we can talk about those books in a minute, about cooking in the Hudson Valley area.
Right.
But she kind of led me in this direction. There was a cookbook published in the Netherlands right around 1750. The copy that I found, the facsimile that I found, was 1752. And by apparently this was a cookbook that was intended to be kind of a professional teaching manual.
Okay.
It was written by a pastry cook in Amsterdam.
Right.
And it is believed by many that this cookbook was the first publication of these tightly guarded trade secrets among the bakers.
So it's written to other bakers?
Apparently. It's written, there's a section in the cookbook that is written specifically for bakers and their apprentices. Okay. But this cookbook was apparently so popular in the Netherlands that it was by 1760 it was in its fourth printing.
And so it's a publicly available thing. It's not like under the counter. This is a very popular book in the Netherlands. It's written in Dutch, so it's difficult for us to translate necessarily. But this is common knowledge there.
Right.
So we have this cultural pocket that we know they were using it professionally, and we believe, at least at this point, we know that it becomes public knowledge in the Netherlands.
Right. And I want to be clear on this, that this is speculation, okay? But it's very possible that this book was the bridge between professional use and domestic use. In my communications with Peter Rose, she was saying the piece that's likely missing is to compare the recipes. Oh, then this Dutch cookbook, by the way, it's called A Dialogue Between a Lady and a Pastry Cook.
Well, that sort of implies public, professional public knowledge.
And the missing piece to this, and finding that point in time where it crosses over, might be found by comparing the recipes in this cookbook with the old Dutch recipes that we find in the Hudson Valley area.
Right. So that's research that's the research that's either yet to be done or we haven't found it yet, where somebody says, let's dig into these manuscripts.
The Dutch manuscripts.
The Dutch manuscripts in the New World, in the Hudson River Valley, that find that touch point connection.
Right. I think the thing that we have come away with on this research, and I hope the viewers do too, we need to really be able to step back a little bit and examine these issues on a regional level, a cultural level. North America, even then, was a melting pot.
Right. I think that's the very interesting thing here. This is a mix. It's this idea of not going. The idea doesn't just spread. Some guy in England doesn't read the Dutch book. No, somebody in the New World reads it, and then somebody's asking questions about it, and somebody writes a letter to the editor, and it goes back to London.
Right. It comes to us through the Dutch community here in North America,
and because of the mix,
and then it goes back to London. And it's picked up in the London cookbooks or the English cookbooks, and then we see the American cookbooks taking off in the early 19th century.
Right. So this kind of research, it's much fuzzier when you really get down into the nitty gritty of it. It seems from the outside that it's fairly easy to figure out, hey, you pick up an English cookbook and it starts to tell you things right away. But there's such a mix between all these cultures and things that are appropriate at different times. There's pressures, there's market pressures having to do with what items are available at what time, shortages of things that drive changes. There's mixes between the cultures in the New World that's driving food changes right here in this late 18th century or early 19th century time.
Right.
Very interesting way. This all kind of a domino effect, as you look through these things.
And for someone who's adding historic cooking to their historical repertoire, if they're a reenactor, the practical implication of that, or the practical application of that, is rather than just grab a recipe and say, I'm going to do this one, add this to my repertoire, they really ought to be looking at
who
they are, when they're, the time period that they're reenacting,
where they are,
and taking those factors into account as well, because the choice of grain, the choice of, admittedly, most of the recipes that we have done on 18th century cooking have used wheat.
Right.
And
there's some real issues there. And I think that's a topic probably for our next series where we go in depth and we want to talk about these same cultural, location, scarcity issues with all the kinds of grains that we take for granted today. It's like, we're going to make cornbread today. We're going to do this or that. And it was not that way.
Right.
So that wraps up this episode today. It's a really big topic, this chemical leavening and exactly where the roots are of it. There's still more to learn here, more research to do. We use it in so many things today. Anyway, so as we move forward, it's going to take us a little time to research our next topic for this exploring, where we kind of go in depth on these topics. If you've got some particular suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Make some comments below.
Hey, John, I also want to thank the viewers for their support, their encouragement during this process. It's been a very valuable experience for us, and hopefully beneficial to everyone.
Also, if you're interested in some of Peter Rose's books, we're going to put some links down in the description text for you to follow if you're interested in Peter Rose stuff. And also, we do offer Pearl Ash now on our website. So I'll put a link to that down into the description also. Thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. You can also check this link out. It'll take you directly to our website, and you can request a print catalog. Thanks so much for watching.